let's discuss the tools and techniques to the process of planned communications management. Expert judgment. Expertise should be considered from individuals or groups with specialized knowledge or training in the following topics: politics and power structures in the organization, environment and culture of the organization and other customer organizations, organizational change management approach and practices, industry or type of project deliverables, organizational communications technologies, organizational policies and procedures regarding legal requirements of corporate communications, organizational policies and procedures regarding security, and stakeholders, including customers or sponsors. Communication requirements analysis. An analysis of communication requirements determines the information needs of the project stakeholders. These requirements are defined by combining the type and format of information needed with an analysis of the value of that information. Sources of information typically used to identify and define project communication requirements include stakeholder information and communication requirements from within the stakeholder register and stakeholder engagement plan, number of potential communication channels or paths, including one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many communications, organizational charts, project organization and stakeholder responsibility, relationships and interdependencies, development approach, disciplines, departments, and specialties involved in the project, logistics of how many persons will be involved with the project and at which locations. Internal information needs, for example, when communicating within organizations. External information needs, for example, when communicating with the media, public, or contractors. And legal requirements. Communication technology. The methods used to transfer information among project stakeholders may vary significantly. Common methods used for information exchange and collaboration include conversations, meetings, written documents, databases, social media, and websites. Factors that can affect the choice of communication technology include urgency of the need for information. The urgency, frequency, and format of the information to be communicated may vary from project to project and also within different phases of a project. Availability and reliability of technology. The technology that is required for distribution of project communications artifacts should be compatible, available, and accessible for all stakeholders throughout the project. Ease of use. The choice of communication technologies should be suitable for project participants, and proper training events should be planned where appropriate. Project environment. Whether the team will meet and operate on a face-to-face basis or in a virtual environment. Whether they will be located in one or multiple time zones. Whether they will use multiple languages for communication. And finally, whether there are any other project environmental factors, such as various aspects of culture, which may constrain the efficiency of the communication. Sensitivity and confidentiality of the information. Some aspects to consider are whether information to be communicated is sensitive or confidential. If so, additional security measures may be required. Social media policies for employees to ensure appropriate behavior, security, and the protection of proprietary information. Communication models. Communication models can represent the communication process in its most basic linear form, that is sender and receiver, in a more interactive form that encompasses the additional element of feedback, that is sender, receiver, and feedback, or in a more complex model that incorporates the human elements of the senders or receivers and attempts to show the complexity of any communication that involves people. Sample basic sender or receiver communication model. This model describes communication as a process and consists of two parties, defined as the sender and receiver. This model is concerned with ensuring that the message is delivered rather than understood. The sequence of steps in a basic communication model is code. The message is coded into symbols such as text, sound, or some other medium for transmission or sending. Transmit message. The message is sent via a communication channel. The transmission of this message may be compromised by various physical factors such as unfamiliar technology or inadequate infrastructure. Noise and other factors may be present and contribute to loss of information in transmission and/or reception of the message. Decode. The data received is translated by the receiver back into a form useful to the receiver. Sample interactive communication model. This model also describes communication as a process consisting of two parties, the sender and receiver, but recognizes the need to ensure that the message has been understood. In this model, noise includes any interference or barriers that might compromise the understanding of the message, such as the distraction of the receiver, variations in the perceptions of receivers, or lack of appropriate knowledge or interest. The additional steps in an interactive communication model are: acknowledge. Upon receipt of a message, the receiver may signal or acknowledge receipt of the message, but this does not necessarily mean agreement with or comprehension of the message, merely that it has been received. Feedback or response. When the received message has been decoded and understood, the receiver encodes thoughts and ideas into a message and then transmits this message to the original sender. If the sender perceives that the feedback matches the original message, the communication has been successful. In communication between people, feedback can be achieved through active listening. As part of the communication process, the sender is responsible for the transmission of the message, ensuring the information being communicated is clear and complete, and confirming the message is correctly interpreted. The receiver is responsible for ensuring that the information is received in its entirety, interpreted correctly, and acknowledged or responded to appropriately. These components take place in an environment where there will likely be noise and other barriers to effective communication. Cross-cultural communication presents challenges to ensuring that the meaning of the message has been understood. Differences in communication styles can arise from differences in working methods, age, nationality, professional discipline, ethnicity, race, or gender. People from different cultures communicate using different languages. For example, technical design documents and different styles and expect different processes and protocols. The communication model shown in figure in front of you on the screen incorporates the idea that the message itself and how it is transmitted are influenced by the sender's current emotional state, knowledge, background, personality, culture, and biases. Similarly, the receiver's emotional state, knowledge, background, personality, culture, and biases will influence how the message is received and interpreted and will contribute to the barriers or noise. This communication model and its enhancements can assist in developing communication strategies and plans for person-to-person or even small group-to-small group communications. It is not useful for other communications artifacts such as emails, broadcast messages, or social media. Communication methods. There are several communication methods that are used to share information among project stakeholders. These methods are broadly classified as follows: interactive communication between two or more parties performing a multidirectional exchange of information in real time. It employs communications artifacts such as meetings, phone calls, instant messaging, some forms of social media, and video conferencing. Push communication. Sent or distributed directly to specific recipients who need to receive the information. This ensures that the information is distributed, but does not ensure that it actually reached or was understood by the intended audience. Push communications artifacts include letters, memos, reports, emails, faxes, voicemails, blogs, and press releases. Pull communication. Used for large complex information sets or for large audiences and requires the recipients to access content at their own discretion subject to security procedures. These methods include web portals, internet sites, e-learning, lessons learned databases, or knowledge repositories. Different approaches should be applied to meet the needs of the major forms of communication defined in the Communications Management Plan. Interpersonal communication. Information is exchanged between individuals, typically face-to-face. Small group communication occurs within groups of around 3 to 6 people. Public communication, a single speaker addressing a group of people. Mass communication, there is a minimal connection between the person or group sending the message and the large, sometimes anonymous groups, for whom the information is intended. Networks and social computing communication supports emerging communication trends of many-to-many supported by social computing technology and media. Possible communications artifacts and methods include notice boards, newsletters, in-house magazines or e-magazines, letters to staff or volunteers, press releases, annual reports, emails and intranets, web portals and other information repositories for pull communication, phone conversations, presentations, team briefings or group meetings, focus groups, face-to-face formal or informal meetings between various stakeholders, consultation groups or staff forums, social computing technology and media, interpersonal and team skills. Interpersonal and team skills that can be used for this process include communication styles assessment, a technique used to assess communication styles and identify the preferred communication method, format, and content for planned communication activities. Often used with unsupportive stakeholders, this assessment may follow a stakeholder engagement assessment to identify gaps in stakeholder engagement that require additional tailored communication activities and artifacts. Political awareness. Political awareness helps the project manager to plan communications based on the project environment as well as the organization's political environment. Political awareness concerns the recognition of power relationships, both formal and informal, and also the willingness to operate within these structures. An understanding of the strategies of the organization, knowing who wields power and influence in this arena, and developing an ability to communicate with these stakeholders are all aspects of political awareness. Cultural awareness. Cultural awareness is an understanding of the differences between individuals, groups, and organizations and adapting the project's communication strategy in the context of these differences. This awareness and any consequent actions minimize misunderstandings and miscommunication that may result from cultural differences within the project's stakeholder community. Cultural awareness and cultural sensitivity help the project manager to plan communications based on the cultural differences and requirements of stakeholders and team members. Data representation. A data representation technique that can be used for this process includes, but is not limited to, a stakeholder engagement assessment matrix. The stakeholder engagement assessment matrix, for example, displays gaps between current and desired engagement levels of individual stakeholders. It can be further analyzed in this process to identify additional communication requirements as a method to close any engagement level gaps. Meetings. Project meetings can include virtual, like e-meetings or face-to-face meetings, and can be supported with document collaboration technologies, including email messages and project websites. The planned communications management process requires discussion with the project team to determine the most appropriate way to update and communicate project information, and to respond to requests from various stakeholders for information.